Soundstripe.
Welcome to South End Supporters, the St. Louis City SC podcast powered by Ready to Live Wellness, coming at you from the Warrior Logo Wear studio. Eric Cole here with the Monday morning center back Dave Wyckoff, as our man David Heck is still out popping champagne, celebrating the Muscuda volleyball girls going to state. So congratulations to them. But we are here to bring you our STL Kalachi preview episode for the week. And this week, Dave, we've got the Seattle Sounders coming to town Saturday night. What can you tell us about this dangerous Sounders team?
Well, they've got awful jerseys. Got the worst kits in the league. That's what we know so far.
I was forgetting whether or not you or David were against the new away jersey. So you're against all Seattle.
I'm against all David. That's just no. The Sounders kits are just DH aside, the Sounders kits are just horrendous. But forgetting about what they look like in terms of what they're wearing, this is by all accounts a very dangerous Sounders team, and they run squad deep. So they're coming off a big win on Saturday over LAFC, 5-2. That's a drubbing, and they got contributions from all up and down the lineup. Again, they rotated out. I think they used all 5 subs. Jordan Morris came off the bench. Albert Rusnak came off the bench. Roldan brothers came off the bench, and they won 5-2. And that's not an easy task with any squad against an LAFC team that's what we think is a potentially championship caliber team on many fronts. But Seattle's going to be a tough test, man. I think so far, you had an out of form Colorado team that you handled business. You probably should have taken 3 points, and then you gutted out a point against a San Diego team that's only going to get better. And then another harder, well-earned 3 this week against the Galaxy, but again, a shorthanded Galaxy side. So I think you're getting the best possible opportunity to get Seattle at home, and they have a midweek match in the CONCACAF Champions Cup against Cruz Azul. By the time Seattle get to St. Louis, they will have played 7 matches already this year between the Champions Cup and the MLS. So despite being able to rotate a pretty deep squad, anybody that's played 7 games as opposed to it'll be Seattle's 8th game against City. It'll be City's 4th game of the season. So you got to feel like you'll be the fresher side. So we'll see. They run very deep. Like I said, when you had the Rodans and Morris and Rusnak coming off the bench, that says a lot about the confidence that the manager has in the squad. And Seattle has one of the best managers in the game, in my opinion, in Brian Schmetzer. So they're going to come well versed. They're going to come well schooled. He's going to be ready for this new defensive absorbing pressure sort of tactics that Olaf has been rolling out there. So we'll see. But the players that you have to watch out for, depending on what squad they roll out, and we're recording this episode on Monday night, so we won't know who plays in their Wednesday night match until after that result. But right now, Rusnak is leading the team in goals with 3. Jordan Morris is leading the team in goals with 3. Rusnak's got 3 helpers. He's been their highest rated player according to FootMob. That's with only starting 2 of the last 3 games as well. So it's going to be a tough task. A lot of people are looking at the Seattle team as somebody that will probably be a big player come MLS Cup time. So City are going to have to bring their A game, man. I don't know what your thoughts are on how we handled them last year. It seemed like we've had more trouble with Seattle on the road, which is kind of to be expected. That's a pretty strong home environment, but I think there's an opportunity here. What are your thoughts?
I remember that one game that we had at home where we dominated them for the entire entire game, and then it was like Morris had that one breakaway that he finished off, and then I think maybe they won 2-0. It was either 1-0 or 2-0, but it was one of those games where you look back and you're thinking we squandered a lot of chances. They had 2 and they finished them off and capitalized. Yeah, Jordan Morris is always going to be a dangerous threat. He just became Seattle Sounders' leading all-time goal
I
scorer,
saw that.
so we know he
Yeah.
can put the ball in the back of the net. Um, Watching back just a couple of their highlights from their past games, they're not afraid to shoot. If you give them even a little bit of space, they're going to look to take that shot. So I would expect the shot count to be up high, just like we just saw against LA Galaxy. Now, to your point, they're definitely healthier. They may be a little bit more tired, but they're healthier than the LA Galaxy, and they have that finishing quality and capability. So while we may have got away with quite a few against the Galaxy as far as allowing shots and everything, Seattle's not a team you want to play that game with, and hope that Berkey just has another outstanding game. We gotta realize they're going to look to shoot and look to shoot often. They added some depth this year. They added Jesus Ferreira from Dallas, so there's just another offensive threat. Even though he's still trying to kind of work his way into the starting 11. Again, they're kind of doing all right with depth as far as that goes. Rothrock watching that LAFC game, he's not a name that I'm very familiar with, but he looked like a stud out there. I don't know where he falls on their depth chart or anything like that, but the way he looked confidence wise and dribbling, the frustrating part is you're going to get a confident, Seattle, depending obviously on what they do with CONCACAF and then what rotation they go from there. So you're going to be, you're going to have a lot of offensive weapons coming your way. And depending on what defense they roll out, I remember Seattle being a very physically dominating defensive squad. They're big, they use that size, and they like to. So, to me, where City can look to expose that is, on the counter, but not just dump and run type balls, but like we saw with that second goal that Hartle had against LA Galaxy. Good link up play starting from the midfield that you work in to find space to finish off at the end. I don't think we're going to have as much success, which we never really do anyway, with the dump and run type counterattack. I think it's going to be just outworking them with, simple, like we touched on, where City is the most dangerous. It's just simple but clinical passing that works them away. Take the physicality out of it, make them start to have to chase our offense, show our quality, and then finish our chances. Yeah, we did finish where we got a 3-0, but we can't look at that as, necessarily as a super strong finishing performance, even though there's 3 goals, because you really felt like they left 3 or 4 easier ones on the table there. So I think it's going to be another chance where, like we saw with Seattle in the past at home, if we get those chances, we can't let them stay in the game. We have to finish them off, and we have to put away those chances going forward because, as you've highlighted, they have a lot of good quality. So it's also not like the LA Galaxy, to where I felt better as the game went on because I knew our depth would, outclass theirs. I felt like Seattle, I feel like they have just as much depth. Again, we're kind of getting lucky with when we're meeting them as far as, with their schedule congestion and everything like that. But they have the ability to rotate quite a bit and still, hurt you at, like you just named those names that you said coming off the bench are typically you would expect to see penciled in the starting lineup. So definitely going to be a tough challenge, but as you brought up against Colorado, can't drop points at home. So you got to look at this. You got to get this home atmosphere back as your fortress that we really utilized in that first year.
Yep. A couple of quick numbers to just kind of give you an idea of what is going to be coming at you on Saturday. Seattle, on the offensive side of the ball, are top 3 in the league in touches in the opposition box, corners, and average shots on target per game with 7. So they're a team that looks to get in close, work the ball around, but they like to take their chances from inside the box. So what did we talk about in Tuesday's episode, right? The defense cannot back up into Berkey's face. You got to hold that high line, that not a high line, but that high line of engagement, I think is what they called it against LA, like not allowing them to walk right down the field and get those shots in close, because that's kind of where they thrive, and not allowing somebody like Jordan Morris to get beat over the top. For a slow white guy, he beats MLS teams over the top a lot. I don't understand it. Yeah. He could never do it on the international level, but he just really does it really well. Been doing it for a long time in Seattle. So, and on the defensive side,
I just love every time we play Seattle, you throw that line in there. He can't do it
Oh,
Like
it's just
it's
the
like you're never gonna let it go.
I'm so this is the one thing that is very underappreciated from Potch is like I don't have to worry about Jordan Morris anymore stealing minutes from anybody up top. Even with as bleak as the striker position is now for the first team, good God, he would never throw that knucklehead up top just to waste time. And I don't hold a grudge either.
No, not at all.
We know that XG requires context, but in this case, XG conceded tends to indicate that a team either does or does not give up a lot of high danger chances. Seattle is bottom third of the league in XG conceded in 2.9. So while they're averaging 2 goals a game scored, they're averaging conceding almost three. So again, there's some opportunity here, particularly on the break, which we saw
Yeah.
we saw from the game against the Galaxy. Like if City can be smart and patient and clinical, and if they want to play that absorb the pressure style and go down the field and do the same thing, it seems like that style might fit this game. The odds makers have City as a slight favorite at home. So in the three-way bet, you've got Seattle plus 165. This is DraftKings, by the way. FanDuel let me down this week. FanDuel has the odds for next week's MLS action already, but not this week's MLS action. So go figure that one out.
That makes sense.
Plus 165 Seattle, plus 225 for a draw, plus 140 for City. So City a slight favorite, plus 140, meaning if you bet $100 and City win, you win 140. That's an interesting line. I think this game probably sets up more for a draw, given the midweek game for Seattle. Like I said, given the fact that they'll have played twice as many games as City by the time this one rolls around. I'm going to do something that I don't normally do and actually predict a draw. I'm going to predict a 2-2 draw at home. I would love the 3, but I think this is a different animal. I think this team is not going to give you the grace that Galaxy did in missing their chances. I think if you give them 3 high danger chances in the box, you're going to get 3 goals buried on you. So a busy night for Berkey, a busy night for the defense, but I also think that you can exploit the Seattle team. 2-2 draw. And my goal scorer, man, since you had 3, by the way, Run BMC is back, baby. That's what I'm talking
BMC is
about.
back, baby.
I think that if we're talking about counterattack, I think that I'm going to go with Choo Choo. I think that Choo Choo's set up to, he got the ugly goal, but he should have had at least one other on the break. So I'm going with Teutschert to score in a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, I like that. I think another area to expose, and it's been in the past, and I've kind of noticed a similar trend so far this year, is Seattle can give up a lot of dumb fouls. They just they are very physical, but they kind of they almost try to leave their mark early, and sometimes it comes to bite them as far as card accumulation and stuff like that. So possibly something that can be taken advantage of by City. I agree. I think if we're going to hit them, it's going to be more so on the counter than anywhere else. I think they're big and physical, and they hold their shape pretty well as far as defense goes. So, to me, it seems like exposing them, defensively. I think it's going to be, again, to your point, kind of like we touched on before. You got to finish these chances if you get them. It can't be, indecision on whether to shoot or cross. It just has to be you have to make your mind and you have to put it in the back of the net. I also could see us, and I'm a little worried just in the fact that we're at home, and I almost want to use that to our advantage, but I could see us going into a more defensive shape, at least early on, and trying to, I don't want to use the term withstand pressure, but, withstand pressure. I think Seattle is going to be, coming out. And this game that they have midweek, I don't know if it's Tuesday, I believe, against Cruz Azul is a tough squad. So I'm curious to see, how they rotate, or if they prioritize that game as compared to us. I'm hoping that they look at their past against us and they maybe look to utilize, prioritizing the CONCACAF Champions Cup and Cruz Azul. but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be just a tough battle for us. I like your 2-2. I don't know. I feel good as far as this goes, and I'm going to go almost 2-1 City. I think Toichert's getting back on the score chart or score sheet. Um, I I love that you sent that because I almost forgot about it that we coined them as Run BMC, and it's one of my favorite things that you've come up with because it just makes so much sense. I'd like to see Betcher get back on the score sheet. I have a feeling he'll be the one back in the starting lineup. But the interesting thing that I thought I read somewhere is Olaf doesn't like just consistently going with the same starting 11.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about that because I like the whole if everybody's fresh and hot, you run with that and make adjustments as
Yeah.
you need kind of deal. Kind of like the whole like this is my spot. Somebody's going to have to kind of come and take it, or I'm going to
Yeah.
have to lose it, kind of ordeal. So I could see Klaus getting rotated again, even though I don't necessarily agree with that. It'll be interesting as we touched on with the Tuesday episode, who's partnered with Leuven, or is Leuven getting rotated?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the move to make, but I'm curious to see who he's partnered up with. Do we go Wallum? Do we go Horn back out on the wing? And then maybe Bumgartle gets that start that we've been kind of wondering. Does he have the fitness because he's working off of what, like 12 minutes all year? So where's his match fitness? I don't really want to go with Yarrow as far as like trying to throw him into such a big, tempoed game and everything like that. But I'm hoping we can utilize that home crowd and come out of there with a 2-1 win. Are you going to be in attendance? Saturday night?
204,
Yes.
204 we will be in the building. We'll be coming from a match in Creve Coeur, but 204 will be in the building. So we'll hopefully be able to get there in time for a little South End Slobs action. Maybe
I was
even
gonna say
even at halftime too. Might have to knock that out at
the
halftime. Just another little.
is there a draft? Is there a DraftKings odds on what the South End Slobs may be going with?
Oh
Like, is there
man, we'll have to.
odds out there on what
So
you're thinking
heavy favorite on the Philly cheesesteak fries, just because we haven't had them yet this year. So that's a heavy favorite. But
this year?
don't sleep on something from somewhere we haven't gone yet. Don't sleep on that.
Yeah, I think as far as me personally, it'll depend on time I get there and
Yeah.
everything like that. But I don't want to just fall back because like I said, I made a goal this year to try 5 new places. So I don't want to fall back on something. So I think it's going to be a game time decision, kind of like. And I want to get your opinion. MLS seems to be, maybe it's soccer in general, just one of the most secretive of health and fitness as far as players go. Do you like just the unknown? Would you rather there be like a week ahead of time? Do you like when it's your team? Do you like them playing the cards a little closer to the chest, or do you feel like there should be like a 3 or 4 day minimum that you have to divulge?
I like the way the
health and
NFL
fitness of your
does it.
squad?
I like the way the NFL does it, where if you have a designated practice day, you have to list what their participation in that practice was, and their participation determines what their classification is. That's the way that I like it. I think that does. I think that gives the most clear picture from both a fan perspective and a gambling perspective too. I mean, not that there's the amount of money being wagered on the MLS that there is like on the NFL, but I think that transparency is important.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So going 2-2 draw for the 204 and I'm going to hope for a 2-1 win.
Is David going to guess no goals? No, David, did he guess the 3-0? Did we ever figure that out? Did he guess 3-0 last week?
I forgot to go back and listen, but I swore he was like, I'm feeling it. It's going to be 3-1, which
Maybe he
is
said
so
3-1.
funny because I think he would have been, if we're assuming that he would have forgot to put in a guess, he would be 3 for 3 as far as his guesses, which is just so wild that he's just he lives for it. We should have put him. He lives for that competition as far as as long as he just forgets and City doesn't end up scoring.
Last note on the Seattle game, it's Tuesday and it's in Mexico. So throw that in. More than likely you'll have your bench guys. I would think you have your bench guys rotated into your starting lineup because there was a 0-0 draw in the first leg of that game. I would imagine Seattle's going to throw Rusnak and the Roldans and Morris out there. Probably try to take that one early and then get them off. But if you're looking at them playing 70, 80, 90 on Tuesday to Saturday is a pretty good break. But I feel like there's an opportunity for some rotation either way. So just to put a bow
If you're
on that.
if you're Seattle, are you flying down to Mexico and then flying back to Seattle to then fly, or are you flying straight to St. Louis and hoping to find a place to
I would
hold
imagine.
camp there?
I would imagine they'll probably fly home on Wednesday and then fly to St. Louis on Friday. But who knows?
I can't imagine they get any, if at all, training in between that time because you figure Wednesday'd be a recovery day,
Yeah.
Thursday maybe walking through, and then Friday you're probably traveling.
Yeah.
So
Either way,
again, I think you can't look at that though as like a reason to let off the gas pedal.
Yep.
You got to realize, like you
Yep.
touched on, they're a dangerous team.
so that was your match day 4 preview, brought to you by St. Louis Kalachi and Sunset Hills at 1530 South Kirkwood Road at the intersection of Kirkwood Road and Watson, next to Highway 44, the home of the original chicken enchilada kolache. Man, I'm hungry right now. And if you know what, Eric, if you observe the Lenten season, if you're a Catholic and you observe the Lenten season, on Fridays you can't go get most of those kolaches, man. There's a lot of meat in them. But let me tell you what our buddy EC has going on. They have a crab rangoon kolache, and I have to whisper because it's so exclusive to this location. 1530 South Kirkwood Road, home of the chicken enchilada kolache and home of the crab rangoon kolache. Intersection of Kirkwood and Watson next to Highway 44. STL Kalachi, we make breakfast better.
One of these days we'll have to just start doing these episodes earlier because all this delicious food talk it just makes me so hungry. I can't go upstairs at late at night and start snacking on the stuff I wanted to do. But
nobody's gonna judge.
Yeah, STL Kalachi in Sunset Hills. Make sure you go check them out, as well as you've got to go check out Felix's Pizza Pub at 6401 Clayton Avenue in Dogtown, an official City on Tap bar. So if you can't get inside City Park this upcoming Saturday, there's no better place to go watch the game than Felix's Pizza Pub, as well as you're not going to get any better pizza and wings than Felix's Pizza Pub. And man, I just keep thinking about that jalapeno ranch. And if you get anything there without the jalapeno ranch, man, you're missing out. But we'll go to our South End submissions this week, and we're going to actually kick it off with the one from YouTube. We haven't had
A
one
YouTube submission. How about that?
I know. This is exciting. Somebody commented on one of our videos and said, if you could have a new logo, what would it be? Now, this is interesting because the logo we have, we created ourselves. So I've maybe held on to it a little bit longer than David would have liked because we were very nervous about any sort of copyright or it being told that we can't use it. So we very much cartoonized it, but it's not the clearest when it comes to, printing it or, if you want to put it on a lot of sorts of materials, a lot of times it's just not the clearest. So for me, I still like the logo, maybe just getting a little bit better color pop in there and just maybe a little bit more fine tune the logo than necessary. I've never really had anything in my mind as of yet, just because I haven't thought about it, I guess, as far as like a whole different design of a logo. What about you, Dave? Have you ever given thought to what would be cool is like this sort of logo or anything like that as far as a new logo for the podcast?
I love the old school logo. I kind of like how it's imperfect, right? I kind of like how it's imperfect like that. It's like it keeps you grounded. But I would like to fuse that with our Chat GPT generated buddy Jerry, the soccer playing tie wearing giraffe. And if you've been to our subreddit, Jerry is not the Jerry over Eric's shoulder, but the Chat GPT Jerry is the banner pick, and he's got a bow tie. He's got what does he have here? I got to go to the page real quick.
Didn't he have a wonky leg that was bent in the wrong direction or something like that?
He's got a bow tie, glasses. He's kicking a soccer ball. he's got a watch that helps him time travel because that was part of what
Yeah.
David put in there was that the giraffe
Yeah.
was time traveling. So if we could figure out a way to incorporate old school and new school, I think that would be outstanding. As long as it's original, right? Like I feel like with what you guys started and to what it has grown into now that there are three of us, it's important to just kind of retain like the originality of what you did. Like this is the fan perspective podcast. This isn't the go out and grind on data. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. There's plenty of places for that. And God love the ones that's what they do and the fans that eat that stuff up. That's great. That's never going to be what we are all about, right? Like we use data to provide context like we did with like the expected SG for Seattle this week, but we're very much more about what our eyes tell us and what we feel in the moment. And you know, I think that's what makes this podcast special is that sort of, you know, off the cuff, real look at things. And I think part of that is, you know, keeping everything original and having original logo and local sponsors, man. Like have, you know, how cool it is to have, you know, Ready Live and Warrior Logo Wear and STL Kalachi, a specific STL Kalachi owned by a person that we know and play ball with. And then, you know, in the past we had Postal, and then Felix is a place where we've had so much fun there and met new friends. Like that's what this is all about. And I think that the logo is just part of the overall picture. The logo that the original logo is part of the overall picture.
And that was very, very well said. I agree with everything you said on
I
that.
blacked out. I don't know. Where am I?
Oh, it was phenomenal. I was just sitting here smiling and nodding. It was great. I will say the only thing I would like to add is maybe a South End Slobs logo in
I
there
like
where
that.
that I think that deserves also
Its own logo. Yeah.
own little
We got to
special
start
logo that
generating
it's
more content.
including.
We generate more slob content. We'll create a logo for that.
Yeah, so if anybody out there is a lot more, which won't take much, a little bit better in graphic design than we
Just
are,
Chat GPT. That'll do it.
yeah, send some ideas our way. Especially if you are located at a 1530 location, we're all in.
We will put you on this show if you're at a
We will
1530
put you on the
location.
show. That's
We're
exactly
contractually
right.
bound.
Yeah, yeah. Next, we'll go to someone we haven't heard from in a while, but David Schmucky, or call in Big
Oh, big
Schmuck.
schmuck.
Big Schmuck's back. He said, I'd like to know what Eric and Dave's go-to S-House moves, I won't say the full thing he decided to use, were when they were playing. Now, I was never much of a, you know, disturber, we'll say. I was more usually on the receiving end of that, like type of stuff that was
Hmm.
just like annoying to me. I was always a very quiet player. My coaches will tell you that. My high school coach, I believe my senior year, I won some award within the team, and he said something to the effect of like, jokingly, the first two words he ever heard me say was "thank you" when I got the award. Like I was a very quiet kid, stuff like that. And so that was never more my game. I remember when I was little though, and I had a coach that said like anytime you're playing defense and you're up, you know, up on somebody and they're holding the ball looking to like turn, give their shorts a little tug and they'll be a little bit more focused on pulling up their shorts than they will the ball, and hopefully you can make a move within there. But man, I think the commons ones a lot, especially indoor, is like getting studs stepped on your foot, like just that the accidental, like especially on like goal kicks or anything like that. You just like you're all there, you're looking in one direction, and you just get those studs. Or I used to hate defenders would give me the little pinches behind the arm, like in that sensitive spot, and that would just absolutely drive me nuts because it's so easily to hide because you're just bracing up on another defender, and you give a little pinch here or there, and it would just it would drive me nuts. But as far as doling it out, I never really. I was very very scrawny and small kid, so I think I was worried about the retribution coming back my way. What about you? Anything that you ever kind of remembered that you leaned into?
Oh man. So this is a question for defenders because we're all
Yeah, I
just
was gonna say that is
inherently S houses in general. I will say that I have never been a an S house that did like a lot of the little things like the accidental steps and the pinches that you're talking about. My game was much more predicated on being physical in the moment and with challenges. Now, if that meant that I, would throw a forearm, every once in a while in a non-dangerous position, then, that's just part of the game. We did used to make it, a part of some of the different defensive units that I was part of. You identify, at the beginning of the game, okay, who's their main goal scorer? Well, in the first 5 minutes of the game, somebody send him flying, right? So that's more of a. I'm seeing me justifying this right now.
Yeah.
You probably played with a couple of guys that got sent flying.
I was gonna say I was probably on the receiving end of
You
all
could
that.
have been, yeah. But
What was the old coaches saying? Let them know you're there, right?
yeah, that's what it
That's how
was. To let them know
they
you're there.
nicely say it. Let
I
them know you're
played
there.
with this group when I was in junior high, and we had a really fun team. We were called Southern Illinois United, and we had guys from Granite and Collinsville and Alton and Godfrey. I mean, we were all over the place, and we had this defensive unit led by this guy who he's actually an Alton detective right now, and it would be really cool if he was listening because he knows exactly who he is. But he still to this day was the biggest S house I've ever played with. I mean, this dude would untie shoes and pants people and pull jerseys, and his the best thing that he did was he would he would find a forward, and he would make advances on this forward. He would flirt with this forward, and they didn't really expect it. And it was funny because I was the center back and he was the right back. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was the sweeper. We played a sweeper then. I was the sweeper, and we had a center back, and he was the right back. We had a left back, and you could watch in the game, and these strikers would switch sides because this guy would get in their head so much. Well, our left back was just as much of an F house as the right back, so the guy would move because he was getting flirted with on one side, and it wouldn't get any better on the opposite side. So that was always my favorite as a kid. The stuff now, God, who's my favorite one now? They're just such jerks. Like soccer players are just hockey players without sticks, man. Like, God, I can't even.
Or yeah, I'd say
Tony
it's more
Rudiger is a fantastic one. That's my favorite right now. And he
just
doesn't even
love.
really he doesn't really do any cheap stuff, but he's just always talking, and
Yeah.
he just knows how to push people's buttons. It was just funny because he's gigantic, and he's just as likely to boots up 2-footed tackle you as he is to take a dive. But he's my favorite one right now, I think.
Yeah, it's all you're right. It's always the chirping stuff, and it usually, like you said, it came from like the defense, kind of letting the offense know. I
Yep.
tell you one that it wasn't really necessarily an S house, but it definitely mentally messed with me. It just in training, and he was on my team. But there was an Irish center back that I played with in college, and every time there was a aerial ball in the air, or even like sometimes even a 50-50, he would shout his name when he was coming. So like I don't know if that was something over in in Ireland that
I've
they
never
trained,
heard of
but
that
like
before.
he would just shout, you just hear like coming up behind you, Ian Henry, and you would just hear it slowly closing in, closing in, closing in. And so I would imagine if you've gotten clocked within 5 minutes, as a
Yeah.
player just going for an aerial debt, and then for the rest of the game you just hear that name coming in on you, closing in
Psychological, man.
quickly.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
psychological
and
warfare back there, man.
it was one of the funniest things, like as a player on the team, thinking like that's the dumbest thing, but like as I like after I got done playing, I was like, oh man, yeah, that would just mentally mess with you, hearing some dude shouting his own name coming your way.
So
Like,
if you hear me start doing that on Thursdays, you'll know where it came from. This
oh,
dude is nuts.
I yeah, yeah. Oh man, I won't be able to play the rest of the game because I'll be laughing so damn hard if you start doing that. That'd be so great.
I might have to try it out.
Yeah, please do. Next, we'll go to Instagram and our man Eric O'Donnell, or EGOMRO4. He said, "We won, so no complaints here. What did you want to be when you were a kid? What did you want to grow up when you were a kid?" Uh, Man, it's I think a lot of boys anyway, but for me, the go to was just a professional athlete. Like it was just like you watched, whether I played baseball then or even soccer, it was just like, oh man, I want to do that. As I got like maybe a little older and closer to high school, I started playing drums. So obviously, professional musician was always kind of a cool thought. But I think as far as kid goes, for me, it was just always like I'm either going to be a professional sports or a Power Ranger, one of the two, and one seemed a little bit more likely than the other. So,
Yeah,
what about you?
man, I remember in '94, I was 8 years old during that World Cup, and that was my first World Cup that I remember watching. And I remember being like, man, I could play for this team. They suck. No,
Yeah,
no, but I do remember
yeah,
that being the first time where it was like, where, when you're an 8 year old, you have no idea the structure of things and you think you're pretty good at soccer and, oh yeah, I'm going to play in the World Cup someday. But
you're in your backyard, like
yeah,
just fantasizing hitting the ball against the wall and
yeah,
running off doing your
yeah,
own.
exactly.
Yeah,
And the one that like, it's one of those, it's not generic, but I feel like it's widespread. Like I remember filling out those things like, oh, what do you want to do? And I was like, wanted to be an astronaut. But then as you get older, you're like, you have to be so ridiculously smart to be an astronaut. And math was
oh
never
yeah.
my thing. And so by the time I was about 10, that was gone. Yeah, I
I
don't,
always love the like come to realization moments we have. Like
yeah.
first time you get struck out by a slow pitcher, and you're just like, yeah,
Yeah.
this isn't
Yeah.
this isn't
But
happening
you
for
know
me.
what's weird? Like I never, and this probably says a lot about where I ended up in the friggin' insurance business, but I never had like beyond like those kid dreams, like, oh, this is what I want to do. You know what I mean? I never had anything locked
Yeah,
in on that. I think as your interests grew, you found things that you wanted to do more. But then the reality of the real world and job availability and college and how your skill set fits what you want to do as opposed to what you're actually meant to do.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's a
Uh,
long-winded answer to say nothing.
no, but uh, it, it's a good one though.
I'm still
It's a good
I
question.
still don't know what I want to do. What I want to do. I'm 38. I've been in this job now that I currently do for 9 years, and yeah, there's a career there, but there's also different paths too. So you never know, man.
I'm still holding out that City's going to come to one of our over 30 indoor leagues and
Yeah,
give us both a shot one
I'm
of these
glad they
days.
didn't. I'm
I'm
glad.
hoping.
I'm glad they didn't come
I,
last week.
oh yeah, Jesus,
By the
you're
way,
telling
by
me.
the way, I'm just gonna put this out there. If you have ever played for any like second team like MLS squad, you do not belong in an over 30 men's league,
Yeah,
and you could piss off,
yeah, dude, what was that guy doing there?
whooping us,
Unreal,
whooping us
unreal. Yeah, yeah, easily, like
easily, not even
easily,
close.
easily.
It was rough,
Especially the one night that we show up and we're like, we got four subs and they got
and
two.
a
Like,
doubleheader.
yeah, we'll,
Yeah,
we'll be all right. And
yeah,
then the second the Lance turned to us and he goes, that guy used to play for the Sounders. And
yeah. We're getting
what?
scouting reports for the games. Like,
What?
well, I guess this is
Yeah,
gonna be a long night, but anyway,
yeah,
please continue.
yeah. Yes. Next, we'll go to our man Fetlord Colton or Colton Cook. He had a two-parter. He said, have we seen what this team can do in the Olaf system with this match? And can we agree that Klaus is a better false nine and Teuchert is an out nine from now on? As far as the Olaf system, I think it was always going to be as the season kind of grew in, you'd start seeing what it's capable of, as well as players adjusting to an entirely new system that they've been experiencing. Really, I know Lutz really liked to highlight when Olaf was hired. We're still going to follow our same philosophy and everything like that, but I just don't feel like it's. What I'm seeing so far this year is the same as what we saw the past 2 years as far as style of play go, and obviously the addition of big personnel like Teuchert and Hartle and Betcher has adjusted that quite a bit. But I think it was always going to be let them grow into this system. We knew we had the talent last year. It was just getting them to gel and work together. I think we're still missing bits and pieces of what this team still can really do. I mean, they're still squandering a lot of chances. We've improved quite a bit apart as far as like the defensive errors that we were really making a lot last year, which is great to see. And you feel a little bit more defensively structured and sound, but I still feel that like there's still room to grow, which is exciting to know that if people are getting this excited off of, that performance again against the weakened LA side, but they're still getting excitement going there. us looking at it going, I still see quite a few areas that this system can go under Olaf.
Yeah, so you've seen how you could shell up now and drag a point out on the road when you don't or you're having a bad day offensively. You've seen the chances that you can create when you possess more of the ball, and you've seen the chances that you can create when you absorb pressure and hit on the break. So I think we haven't really seen the full potential of any of those styles really yet,
Mhm.
because we haven't seen them click on all cylinders really yet. And you've still got guys that you haven't really seen featured yet that you expected and you still expect will be featured. Like I expect at some point that Timo time is going to happen and he's going to be back there. And then your distribution chain changes a bunch, right? Like which side does he play on? What does that do to Horn? You've yet to unleash Celio's skill set so far. Man, that's a lot of S's. You've
Ostrak.
you've yet to see Ostrak at all. Yes, you have yet. Jay, what happens when Jay Reed comes back? Like
Yeah.
is Jay,
Yeah.
and that's a serious injury, and I didn't imagine he would probably see any time until the summer, but all things being equal, if you have Giannis Horn to play the left back, the left center back, Jay Reed is would be a hell of a left winger. And I know we
Yeah.
like what Wallum has to offer a lot right now, but there's nobody that's got the same pace as Jay Reed in this whole system. So, I no, to answer Colton's question, I don't think that we've seen the best of it yet. I think that we may have
Work.
seen what the bottom out looks like if you can't get any possession and you have to absorb for all 90. Luckily, there were no goals, but no, I see a ton of potential for them to continue to grow into this style and for this style to evolve. Like, I think it seems like Olaf is not married to any one set of tactics. Like, he'll make substitutions and do what he thinks needs to be done. So it seems like he'll fit to what personnel he has.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that. Like even that point with just the wing backs, say Jay Reed gets back in and he's looking for just straight pace. Tots needs a rest. You just throw Wallem over on the right because he's been shown that he can play both left
Yeah.
and right and feel comfortable in that position. What a great option to still have in there. Or if you're looking to just exploit a team on one-on-one dribbling, Celio and Ostrak coming in is
Yep.
could be a massive game change. I think this is just also the first time we're really seeing City, and this was always going to be this way with an expansion team, slowly build that depth
Yeah.
that Olaf can have all these puzzle pieces to look at a game and think this is what I have available. It's more of this is the system I want to run against this team rather than in the past. It was like, this is the only 11 I have right now, and I'm calling up City 2 players and all this type of stuff. So I think we're kind of experiencing that, and hopefully it just continues to grow as we go along. As far as the second part of his question and Klaus, I just always felt like Klaus was always just, more better suited to be a false nine than an outright
Yeah.
just up top striker. I just always felt like that was part of his game. Even when him and Nico were there and they were working so well, it was always Klaus the one dropping back and Nico kind of staying high. And when you're watching these games so far, Toychert's the one who's staying up high. And, kind of Klaus is doing a lot of the work, checking back to the ball and, kind of doing that work. So I think it was always that way. I think last year, first year he had the injury, so he missed so much of the year that we didn't really get to see him. And then last year he was really called upon a lot to just be that outright striker in that 4-2-3-1 system that I think people got really married to the idea that Klaus is just an outright up top, stand up there and do all the work striker,
Yeah.
where I don't think that was necessarily his best game. And I think we're slowly starting to see where he gets the chance to play in his best position.
Yep. Agreed.
Next, we'll make our way over to Facebook, and this time Dave Sperry coming in on Facebook rather than Twitter. Maybe he thought we wouldn't recognize him with the Spurries, but we still see you there, Spurry. He said, "What a win, boys. Love the ball movement. Totally different vibe from the SD game. Question is, what kind of degen action did Mr. Heck have? I took the Chinese line of under 2.5, so I took the push, and we still need a goal scorer with a laughing emoji."
So we think he means the Asian handicap, which we still don't fully understand. So if you want more information on that, look that up. We don't know exactly what David's bet was, but we did get a text that he hit the parlay.
Get it? Yeah.
So we think that he parlayed corners, City win, and Brendan McSorley scoring in the City 2 game, but there's no confirmation of that.
No, but he hit everything. He seemed very happy before the final whistle was blown
Yeah.
as far as his lineups and everything hitting, and he was all over the. Did you place anything on
I
that
did,
game
but I
or?
did not hit my 1-0. I got my goal scorer. I got Cello
Oh
as the
yeah.
goal scorer, but I did not. My 1-0 got blown out of the water, which I'll take it. We're finally on the
Yeah.
board in the charity challenge.
Hey,
City refs are in the lead. I think I think that they said they
still
have.
going with the no guess option
Yeah, I
on
think
their
that they
end.
said that they have more points this year than they had all of last year, and they were wooden spoon last year.
They
So,
were one spoon
but
winners
we're off
last
the
year. Yeah.
schneid at least.
That's great. I do want to say we had a comment on our Facebook. Cello is Marcel Hartle, and if we say Choo Choo, that's Toychert. Edu is Leuven. I'm trying to think of any other nicknames that we throw on here a lot, but
Tots,
Tots is Totlin.
Batch,
Yeah, King Cass
yes,
is
yeah,
Kessler. Hebes is Hebert.
yeah.
Big Sexy is Berkey. My wife is the only one who calls him that, but it'll catch on eventually. Next, we'll go to Jeff Thornborough, or the South State supporter. He said, so thankful the boys put together a solid performance. Berkey sure does make me feel a happy supporter. For the first time in a long while, I was able to go crazy in the South State living room. I enjoyed jumping out of the recliner and celebrating a goal. Ready for Saturday night. Your South State supporter, a great American, and lover of all things Buc-ee's related, a magnificent attraction to take your family and even fuel up if needed, Jeff Thornborough. Just when you thought that man couldn't be any more of a great American, he just puts the cherry on the
We're
top
gonna
right
have to
there,
screen these.
confirming,
We're gonna have to screen these
confirming,
submissions a little bit better.
confirming what I've been saying.
Bucky's
That
might
is,
be an
I'm
attraction.
not saying you can't get gas there. I'm not
Bucky's might
saying
be an
that.
attraction down in the boot heel, but in the big city, Bucky's is a gas station.
I thought of this the other day. Let me ask you this: You've been to Bucky's, correct?
No, I go to Quick Trip to get my
Wait,
gas.
you haven't even been to a Bucky's, and you're
There are
talking all that
gas
crap?
stations all over the place. I don't need to go to some beaver themed gas station.
Well, then my follow-up question was going to be for David, if he's been to a Bucky's, and it would be, if he went to Bucky's, did he get gas and drive off?
He's probably a Wally's guy.
No,
I
no,
imagine he's a Wally's type of guy.
he would be. He would be.
It'd be funny if
But
the
yeah,
Bucky's
Jeff,
and the Wally's people had beef. Like
that would be
like Walmart and Target people like don't like each other. What if Bucky's and Wally's people don't like each
like
other?
drums and flats, those types of people that go
Well,
around. Yeah,
that's a friend. That's like a Cardinals Cubs rivalry. Like Flats laugh at the drummies like, "Oh, you're cute. You won one World Series in 100 years. That's adorable."
it would be funny if I do wear that Bucky's shirt again out in public, and somebody with a Wally's shirt walking by. It's like when somebody with a Liverpool shirt walks past me, and it's
Yeah,
just like I don't know why, for some reason, I just don't like
yeah.
that person. It's just
He's
like
got a good
they have
idea.
that feeling.
Great submission though from Jeff.
Oh, great.
That's
Some,
awesome.
as always, Jeff. But yeah, glad you got to jump out of that recliner and enjoy the South State living room there. Next, we'll go to our man, Jeremy Clements. He said 3 games, no goal contributions from Klaus. How do you all rate his performance? Do you think Roman Berkey has a bottle of that secret stuff like MJ did in Space Jam? If so, what's in it? So I posed this question to you guys during the game. And I want to kind of bring it up here as well. And maybe we'll post this to our socials, but I'm curious to get. So Klaus seems to be kind of the big target as far as the socials and fans this year. And you know, there's take that with a grain of salt when it's coming from the socials. But I posted to you guys, if Klaus wasn't our DP, if he didn't have that DP tag, or if he wasn't labeled like we just touched on a little bit ago as an outright striker, like we had to use him a couple years ago, do you think people would still look at him as underperforming or not a good player? Because what I've been seeing from Klaus has been very, very good on the ball outside of the statistics. And to me, if my team is winning and he's still not on the score sheet, but we're getting goals somewhere and he's in part contributing towards those goals, whether he's not getting an assist or a goal, I'm happy with his play. And I think the biggest weight on his shoulders right now is that DP tag, because people, Twelman and a lot of MLS broadcasters bring it up, and I do agree to it to some extent. To go far in the playoffs and to be successful, your DPs have to perform. Those are the ones that you're sprawling out the big money towards and everything like that. Klaus, hit the ground running with St. Louis, and we all thought that's the other thing too, is he hit the ground running and then hasn't really been the same since. But to me, I think he's solely getting looked at from the socials as far as no goals, no goal contributions or anything like that. Do you think if he wasn't our DP and he was still having the same year he was, would you be looking at him as a well-performing player for us, or would you still feel like it would be justified that you're not scoring goals, so therefore you're not performing on the field?
I think the DP part has a lot to do with it, but I also think that the expectations he set in the first season are the biggest factor, right? Like when you show people that that's what you can do, and then you don't do that for the better part of a year, and plus the best ability is availability, and you've shown the tendency to be injured. But I certainly think that a lot of the frustration from the fringe or the dorks or whatever you want to call him is that he's got the DP tag to him. If he didn't have that, he wouldn't be. He'd still catch flack, but not nearly as much. It's kind of like in the NFL when they talk about playing the contract, like when you've got aging players. That's the closest comparison to me. But listen, he's not going anywhere. So you've got to come to a realization of what he is, and he's a playmaker. He's a chance creator. He's a disruptor. You don't have a straight goal scoring number 9 on this team. You just don't. So let's deal with it and get over it, because it's such a tired conversation now.
Yeah. It just always felt like every time I would, go to see why people would say something, somebody would be like, but he's our DP. That was just always the constant fallback on him. Even if somebody tried to defend, well, he did this and he had that game, it was always still follow and, take it with, whatever that maybe means or whatever. But I was just always curious, like, had he not been considered one of our DPs, would, he get the flack it takes.
Yeah.
And you feel for the guy when he rings the post with a belter, because it's like he's got to be thinking, at this point, what do I have to do to just get on the score sheet? And I hope it comes for him soon, because it'll build his confidence greatly. And one thing I do love about Klaus is when somebody else does score, the first person I see with the biggest smile on their face and
Yep.
the biggest hug is Klaus. He's a team player. Even when he's subbed off, he's not pouting like we've seen come to see very popular within the game.
Yeah.
He jogs off the field. He gives the guy who's coming in for him a big hug, and he wants the best for the team. So I want that out of a player. We touched on it in the last episode. We want workers. We want people that are going to go out there and play for the badge, not the name on the back. We want the name
Yep.
on the front. And so he's one of those players. So I like that. Next, we'll go to Tommy Beck. He has a fun one. He says, non-soccer question. When you guys aren't making SESP content, what podcasts are you listening to? I mean, this is going to sound weird, but I don't listen to any soccer content as far as podcasts go. And I also don't listen to any St. Louis. I'll say I listen to it. I listen to St. Louis content way late, and I have a reason for it. With doing this show, I don't want to find myself ever repeating things that I've heard from other podcasters or have my mind changed. I want to just speak freely on what I feel, and I don't want to have it influenced by I go back and I do, like, way down the line, listen to a lot of those other podcasts that are around the St. Louis, and they're phenomenal. So you should go check them out. Like Dave said, if you're looking for numbers more so than what we provide, there's plenty of great podcasts out there that will get way more in deep with that. So there's a lot of great St. Louis podcasts out there. I just don't ever want to have anything. I want to be able to just speak my mind when it comes to St. Louis City. So for me, when I listen to podcasts, I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts, or I'll listen to, there's a skateboarding podcast called The 9 Club. I'll listen to that. But I kind of get away from soccer or even really sports, I guess I would say, when it comes to my podcast content. What about you?
Yeah. So football wise, Guardian Football Weekly. That's my go to. I don't. I'm like you. I don't want to influence my local opinion with like a local stuff. Like I'll check out a lot of the stuff, like you said, after the fact and the post game. Some of that stuff that like Flower Footy does and those guys. But Guardian Football Weekly is a really good one. They cover mostly England, but they'll cover the major leagues, and then non soccer related. There's a really good one by the BBC called "You're Dead to Me." It's like kind of a comedy history crossover podcast. It's really funny. And then there's one called "The Rest Is History" that is strictly a history related podcast, and I'll do like 5 and 6 episode like sagas on different world events and stuff like that. So, and then during fantasy football season, I'll listen to a lot of that sort of content just because that is taken over from the articles that used to read. But yeah, that's about it. I said most of my stuff is like history driven for the most part.
Yeah, you've always been pretty big into like history and that type of stuff.
Yeah,
so
and not everything, right? It's just they touch on different eras that are interesting, and So, and there's also Freakonomics Radio has been a recent one too, and that's the behind the scenes of everything. Basically, I find that one super fascinating because one week they'll talk about like the legal weed business, and the next week they'll talk about like why are there so many rats in New York City? Like it's wild the variance in topics. So yeah.
I always think that's cool when they kind of
Yep.
cover anything and everything.
Yep.
Last one I have on my end is a great one from Ryan Kadlec. I hope I said your last name correctly. Kadlec. They said, if you had to eat one roller grill item for every city goal scored this year, which item would it be? Has to be the same item for every goal. Now, this is your wheelhouse.
This is my time to shine.
As far as this is, he might as well have said, Dave Wyckoff, challenge is set. What are you going?
It has to be the same one every time. So this is my go-to.
So basically, yeah, if you're hoping that City scores a bunch of goals this year, what roller grill bag would you have to have in your pocket of one single item?
Pork egg roll.
Pork egg roll?
Pork egg roll. Shut it down.
Now, I haven't had a roller grill item that's been, I've been pretty open about that on the show. I'm open to it. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but you sent one to us the other day that just, sounded right up my alley. Was
that the street? Was it the street corn one?
That one sounded great as well, but that blueberry pancake, I believe you said?
Yeah. The blueberry pancake sausage roller. That's a strong one too. Yeah.
I think if I was going to go, sweet tooth, if I was going to go a route as far as roller grill items, it would probably be on the sweeter side. And when you showed us that one, I was like, yes, that sounds right up my, and I would gladly take down plenty of those for
dozens of those.
Yes, a bunch of
it was really good. It was really good, but yeah, I'm gonna stick with pork egg roll.
Okay. We'll finish this one off with some Reddit submissions.
So we don't have any Reddit. Nobody brought it from Reddit today, and the one that I dug up, I really want to save for David because I don't want to hurt his feelings. So I think that'll do it for our Felix's Pizza Pub South End submissions for this week.
Well, we'll ask him anyway, but you're being the roller grill expert. If you had to put a roller grill attached to David, what you think his answer would be?
He doesn't dig on swine.
Doesn't dig on swine,
and he thinks those cheeseburger ones are weird. So probably like a chicken taquito. I think he'd like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd go with something chickeny.
Yeah.
I think that is a good one. Well, hey, those were a bunch of great South End submissions. As always, we appreciate sending those in. Your Felix's Pizza Pub South End submissions. As always, make sure you go check them out at 6401 Clayton Avenue in Dogtown. Best pizza and wings you'll get, as well as a great, perfect place to go watch any City game because they are an official City on Tap bar. We also want to thank all our sponsors. We really do appreciate all of them. R2L Wellness, make sure you go check them out at 1530 South Kings Highway Boulevard and check them out online at R2L Wellness, as well as Warrior Logo Wear. Go get all your merch and everything taken care of. Check them out at 12 East Main Street in Muscuda, Illinois, and as well as STL Kalachi in Sunset Hills at 1530 South Kirkwood Road in St. Louis. Go check out that crab rangoon kolache going on during this Lent season because it does sound phenomenal. That'll put a wrap on this one for myself, Eric Cole, for the Monday Morning center back, Dave Wyckoff, for our buddy that doesn't dig on swine, DH David Heck. You've been listening to South End Supporters. We'll see you next week. And until then, let's go City.